What's the first thing you say to yourself every morning, before your phone, before the news, before the world tells you who to be? For most people, the answer is silence, or worse, stress, self-doubt, distraction. And the moment you wake up in reaction, you surrender the power to shape your day. You're no longer the author, you become the audience. But the Stoics believed something radical. You train your mind by what you say to it. Each morning is a command post. Every word you speak into yourself becomes code, shaping your discipline, your clarity, your emotional resilience, your power. That's why today we'll give you 8 powerful Stoic affirmations. Not soft words of comfort, but sharp tools of identity. Not hype, but habits. This is mental clarity training. This is how you protect your energy before others drain it. This is how you reclaim your thoughts before they spiral. This is how you build your daily Stoic mindset, with intention, not accident. You're not alone in feeling overwhelmed, but you don't have to stay there. You don't need to wait for motivation. What you need is a decision and a voice that speaks strength before the world can speak fear. So pause, breathe, and say these with us. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reset. Your mind is listening. The question is, what story will you give it to repeat? 1. I am responsible for my inner world. Before the world invades your peace, before your phone lights up, before anyone speaks your name, you've already made a decision. You've either claimed ownership of your mind, or you've abandoned it to whatever noise hits first. Most people wake up and immediately give their attention away. They scroll, they compare, they react. And without realizing it, they hand over the steering wheel of their day, often to things that don't matter. They allow stress, external opinions, and old doubts to become the first voices they hear. But here's the truth. What you say to yourself before the world speaks is not just background noise. It becomes identity. The Stoics understood this. They believed that your inner world must be guarded more fiercely than your home. You don't leave your doors wide open at night. So why leave your mind open to attack at dawn? What enters first, anchors deepest. That's why Stoicism isn't about suppressing thoughts, it's about selecting them with discipline, choosing clarity over chaos, logic over impulse, identity over emotion. Marcus Aurelius didn't start his day by asking what the world expected. He reminded himself what kind of man he intended to be before stepping into the world that would challenge him. Now pause. Ask yourself honestly, who decides what your first thought is? Is it you or a feed? Is it your values or your notifications? The average person doesn't realize that morning silence isn't empty. It's programmable. And if you don't speak to your own mind first, someone else will. That's not just a mental mistake, it's spiritual negligence. Reclaiming your inner world isn't about building walls, it's about setting direction. And that begins with responsibility. You are not the echo of yesterday's criticism. You are not the product of the day's demands. You are the gatekeeper of your focus and the one who decides what energy enters your day. Let's be practical. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, sit with yourself for 2 minutes. In silence. Don't reach for your phone. Don't check the news. Don't open yourself to the world yet. Instead, say this to yourself, not as a mantra, but as a command. I control my mind, not the noise around me. Feel the weight of that. Because once you do, you no longer move from reaction. You move from reason. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is a reflex. It's raw, unfiltered, and often triggered by fear or ego. But response? That's intentional. That's the Stoic power, emotion with direction, thought under command. When you begin your morning with intentional thought, you're no longer pulled into drama or dragged by your to-do list. You walk anchored. Imagine this. A man wakes up to a crisis, a financial email, a sudden demand, or someone's anger. He immediately replies, emotionally, defensively. That one impulsive reaction creates a domino effect. He carries tension into his next call, shortens his patience with his partner, eats mindlessly at lunch, and feels drained by noon. Now picture the Stoic alternative. Same crisis, same inbox, but a 2-minute pause before any action. A single reminder spoken silently. My peace is mine. My power is choice. Now he reads that email with detachment. He replies with reason. He moves with calm, not chaos. That's not magic. That's training. And it starts every morning. Responsibility for your inner world is the greatest freedom you'll ever claim. Because once you control your thoughts, you control your reactions. And once you control your reactions, you control your outcomes. That is not philosophical fluff. That's daily leverage. So tomorrow, train your first thought. Don't let it be fear. Don't let it be noise. Let it be you, speaking to yourself with clarity, with strength, with stillness. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. And the present starts with ownership. Say it before the world speaks. I am responsible for my inner world. Then live like it. 2. Today is a gift, not a guarantee. You woke up this morning, but did you realize it was a miracle? Most people don't. They rush into the day as if time is on tap, like there will always be another sunrise. But the Stoics warned against this blindness. They saw every morning not as routine, but as a rare opportunity. A gift, a fragile window you're never promised again. That's why they lived with urgency. Not chaos, but intention. Not stress, but clarity. They weren't running from death. They were walking toward life, eyes open, aware that every day is a rented flame and you never know when the candle will go out. Modern life dulls that awareness. The calendar keeps scrolling, the inbox keeps pinging, the body moves, but the soul forgets to follow. You think there's time to delay, to avoid hard truths, to get to it later. So you postpone meaning, you cancel purpose, you wait for the perfect moment to change your life, never realizing that this moment is the only one guaranteed. The Stoic phrase memento mori isn't morbid, it's freeing. Remember that you must die, so you remember how to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." It wasn't fear, it was fuel. When you face the truth of your impermanence, you stop wasting time trying to avoid it. You start using time as the power it is. Picture this. A man in his 50s wakes up. First thought, work emails. Second, regret. He sighs, checks stocks, then stress eats breakfast while scrolling the news. He doesn't speak to his wife, he doesn't look out the window, and he misses the fact that he's breathing, that his body still works, that he has one more chance to build what he's been avoiding. The day isn't the problem. The mindset is. Now picture a Stoic. Same age, same alarm. But his first thought isn't what's waiting for him. It's what's been given to him. He opens his eyes and whispers, "Thank you." He doesn't mean to a god or to the clock. He means to life itself. Then he moves with deliberation. He breathes, he grounds his thoughts, he chooses what to feed his mind before he feeds his body. He's not rushing to fill the day, he's shaping it. Because he knows today is not guaranteed, and that knowledge sharpens everything. This isn't about becoming solemn or anxious. It's about becoming awake. Gratitude isn't a mood, it's a discipline. You train it the way you train your muscles or your will. And that training begins in the first 5 minutes of your day. Instead of reaching for your phone, reach inward. Speak silently. This day is rare. I won't waste it. Then act accordingly. Don't delay the call you've been meaning to make. Don't wait to forgive someone until your ego feels safe. Don't put off the morning walk, the journal entry, the business idea, the book you want to write, the person you want to be. Nothing says you get to wake up again. Nothing says you'll have another try. But if you're reading this now, that means you do. And that is power. The Stoics didn't romanticize life. They respected it. That's why they made space for reflection before reaction, for intention before schedule. They didn't waste time complaining about the world. They used time to change how they moved through it. So tomorrow morning, before your habits run wild, pause and say this with your full presence. Today is a gift, not a guarantee. I will not waste what is not promised tomorrow. Speak it not to sound wise, but to become awake. Then carry that mindset, not just in your thoughts, but in your choices. Because the way you treat your morning reveals the way you treat your life. And this life, it's already happening. 3. My emotions are my servants, not my masters. Emotions rise like tides. They pull, crash, and recede. And for most people, that's exactly how their day goes. Tossed around by feelings they never trained, ruled by triggers they never studied. A message irritates them, so they snap. A comment stings, so they retreat. A memory aches, so they freeze. They think feeling deeply is the same as living fully, but it's not. Feeling deeply is natural. But acting blindly? That's a habit born of neglect. Emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. Signals from within. But a signal is not a command, it's just information. And here's where most people go wrong. They don't pause to ask what their emotions are pointing to. They obey without examination. They let a 5-second surge of irritation destroy an hour of focus. They let a moment of fear cancel a year of planning, and they do it over and over, calling it normal, calling it being human. But being human doesn't mean being hostage. The Stoics knew this. They didn't deny emotion. They respected it, but refused to serve it. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them." The emotion isn't the problem, the interpretation is. Anger may rise, but does it own you? Fear may whisper, but do you believe it? Sadness may come, but does it paralyze or clarify? The Stoic draws a line, feels full, but chooses deliberately. Picture a young man waking up with heaviness in his chest. Something's wrong. He can't explain it. He's anxious. His instinct is to cancel the gym, ignore his work, scroll mindlessly, and numb out. That's the common path. Emotion takes the wheel. But now imagine he's been trained in Stoic self-mastery. He doesn't fight the feeling, but he doesn't feed it either. He sits still, breathes, writes down 3 questions. What am I feeling? Why might I be feeling it? What does wisdom suggest I do? Then, without waiting to feel better, he goes to the gym anyway. He finishes the work anyway. He moves forward anyway. Not because he's numb, but because he's not controlled. That's a strength. This isn't about becoming cold or robotic. It's about becoming responsible. It's about emotional clarity. Knowing that sadness might visit, but it doesn't get a vote. Knowing that frustration might flare, but it doesn't get to speak for you. Emotions are guests, not rulers. And like any guest, they should be acknowledged, not crowned. You don't need to resist your emotions. You need to reposition them. You are the driver. They are the dashboard. You use the information, but you steer the wheel. You choose the route. That's not detachment. That's power. When you feel overwhelmed by emotion, ask one question. Is this feeling helping me act in alignment with my values? If the answer is no, then the next step is clear. You breathe, you wait, you move anyway. That single act, moving forward without needing your emotions to agree, separates the reactive from the refined. Stoicism isn't about becoming less human, it's about becoming more intentional. And intention starts with awareness. Speak to your emotions every morning before they speak to you. Say this, I feel deeply, but I choose wisely. Say it like you mean it, not to silence your heart, but to guide it. Because when your feelings become your servants, your clarity becomes unshakable. Your power multiplies. So tomorrow when you wake up and the storm inside is loud, pause. Don't follow the noise. Speak into it. Claim your direction and walk forward, not because the emotion disappears, but because it no longer decides. You do. 4. I do not need to be liked. I need to be aligned. You can spend your whole life chasing applause and still feel hollow in a quiet room, because approval is addictive. It rewards you just enough to keep you compliant, but never enough to make you free. The more you need it, the more you trade away your authenticity. And once that trade begins, it never ends. You start filtering your truth, shrinking your actions, softening your values, all to fit into a mold someone else made for you. To be liked is not the same as to be respected. And to be respected is still not the same as to be at peace with yourself. That's where most people get trapped. They think external validation will secure internal peace, but it doesn't. It never has. Because peace can't be borrowed, it has to be built. And building peace requires alignment. Alignment between what you believe, what you say, and how you act. That's not comfortable. That's costly. Because when you choose alignment, you often lose approval. But that's a trade worth making, because what you gain is integrity. The Stoics knew this danger long before social media existed. They warned against becoming a puppet of popularity. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Not because foolishness is good, but because perception isn't truth. Marcus Aurelius walked through Rome as emperor, knowing that a crowd's cheer could turn into condemnation. So he didn't build his identity on praise. He built it on principle. The Stoic doesn't move to be admired, he moves to be aligned. Imagine this. A woman in her 40s wakes up, already anxious. She opens her phone. 3 texts left to read. No likes on her latest post. An old friend posted a vacation photo that makes her life feel small. In less than 5 minutes, her sense of self is shaped by people who aren't even in the room. She hasn't even spoken to herself yet. She hasn't asked, "What do I believe today? What matters to me today?" She's already reacting to a silent demand: be liked or feel less than. Now imagine the Stoic approach. Same woman, same morning. But she doesn't reach for the world's noise. She starts by aligning her breath, her thoughts, and her actions. She repeats, "I do not need to be liked, I need to be aligned." That shift doesn't erase insecurity, but it disarms its power. She's no longer moving for attention. She's moving with intention. Needing to be liked is a form of emotional dependence. It makes you moldable, adjustable, forgettable. But when you choose alignment, you become rooted, solid. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop pleasing at the cost of your own clarity. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And self-respect is the soil where freedom grows. The next time you feel the urge to please everyone, pause. Ask yourself, does this action reflect who I am? Or just who I think they want me to be? If the answer feels off, then step back. Regain your center. You don't need to impress strangers who wouldn't show up when it matters. You don't need to perform authenticity, you need to practice it. Alignment is quiet. It won't always get applause, but it will let you sleep at night. It will let you look in the mirror without flinching. It will let you live with power even when no one is watching. So tomorrow morning, speak the truth into yourself before the world speaks confusion into you. Say this: I will not trade truth for approval. Then act like it, because alignment is rare, and rare things build real peace. 5. I choose discipline over mood. The moment you let your feelings decide your actions, you've handed your life to a storm. Feelings are fleeting. They rise, twist, collapse, and if you're not anchored, they take you with them. But discipline doesn't wait for the right mood. Discipline shows up regardless, and that's where most people lose themselves. They wait to feel inspired, energized, and motivated. They wait for the sun to shine inside them before they take a single step outside. And when the feeling doesn't come, neither do they. But the Stoics didn't build their lives on feelings. They built them on principles. Marcus Aurelius didn't roll out of bed waiting to be excited. He reminded himself that he was a part of something greater, a duty, a role, a service to truth. And in doing so, he moved regardless of comfort. He showed up not because it felt good, but because it was right. Because showing up, especially when you don't feel like it, is the essence of freedom. It's the difference between being a slave to emotion and being a commander of direction. Imagine a man in his 60s trying to improve his health. The first few days he's on fire. Early walks, clean meals, powerful journaling. But on day 5, the feeling fades. The soreness kicks in. The motivation dies down. That's the moment that defines him. If he quits, he returns to the identity he's trying to outgrow. But if he keeps going, not out of mood but out of mission, he becomes someone new. That's the quiet magic of discipline. It's not loud, it doesn't shout, it repeats, it builds, it rewires, and slowly it transforms. Discipline is a mindset, not a punishment. It's not rigidity, it's rhythm. You don't force yourself into misery. You design your daily system so that action becomes natural, automatic, inevitable. Like brushing your teeth, you do what must be done not because it's exciting, but because it's who you are. That's what Stoic self-mastery means. It means showing up on hard days with the same intensity as the easy ones. It means separating your standard from your state. Your state can be tired. It can be sad, angry, or restless. But your standard stays grounded. It acts anyway. The world will tell you to go easy on yourself. But the truth is, most people have gone too easy for too long. They've turned self-compassion into avoidance. They've confused gentleness with softness. And softness, when overindulged, becomes surrender. The Stoic doesn't surrender to delay. He doesn't beg for inspiration. He trains himself to act without it. Because once you learn to act without waiting to feel ready, you become unstoppable. Start with something small. Wake up tomorrow and declare, I don't need to feel like it. I just need to begin. Don't negotiate with the alarm clock. Don't delay the walk. Don't scroll before stretching. Build a cue, a trigger, a ritual that connects your identity to your action. That might be cold water on your face, a short breathing exercise, or one sentence in a journal. Let that signal tell your body that today isn't run by feelings, it's run by design. Discipline isn't about control, it's about clarity. Clarity of who you are, clarity of what you do, clarity of where you're going. And that clarity only grows when you train it daily. Not when the fire is burning, but especially when it's out. So the next time your mind says skip it, say this out loud. Discipline is my language. Consistency is my superpower. Then move. Slowly if needed, quietly if required. But move. Because when you do, you stop being a servant of mood and start becoming the master of momentum. And from that place, everything changes. 6. I guard my energy like treasure. You lock your front door at night, you protect your money, you set passwords to guard your digital accounts. But the most important thing, the source of your decisions, your peace, your presence, goes unguarded. Your energy. It leaks quietly, subtly, hour by hour, because most people don't treat it like treasure. They treat it like it's unlimited. But your energy is not infinite. It's your currency for clarity, discipline, and purpose. And if you don't protect it, you will waste it. On noise, on nonsense, on everything that demands your attention but never deserves your presence. Stoicism begins where most people react. The Stoic doesn't give emotional access to everything that knocks. He filters, he observes, he pauses before responding. Because not every problem needs your involvement. Not every message needs a reply. Not every conflict deserves your reaction. And silence is not weakness, it's strategy. A mind trained in restraint is stronger than a fist trained in defense. Picture this. A man in his 50s wakes up and opens his phone before even brushing his teeth. News headlines flood his mind. A coworker's email triggers tension. A family group chat drags him into emotional drama. He hasn't even stood up, but he's already spent 30% of his energy budget. By noon, he's drained. Not because the world is harder than usual, but because he handed out emotional access like free samples. Now, picture the Stoic version of that morning. Same man, same phone. But before touching anything external, he pauses, he breathes, he reminds himself, not everything deserves a response. My peace is sacred. Only then does he choose what enters his space and what doesn't. Modern life rewards availability. The more accessible you are, the more valuable people think you are. But that illusion is costly. Being constantly reachable is not a virtue, it's a recipe for burnout. True value comes from being intentional, not from being available. Being selective is not rude, it's wise. Every time you say yes to distraction, you say no to your focus. Every emotional reaction is a trade. You give away your clarity in exchange for momentary noise. The Stoics were masters of internal boundaries. Epictetus taught that we should divide the world into what's within our control and what isn't. Anything beyond that line should be observed, but not absorbed. That's not detachment, it's discipline. Marcus Aurelius spoke often about retreating into the inner citadel, your mental fortress. Not to escape life, but to return stronger, calmer, clearer. Guarding your energy is not about isolation. It's about discernment. It's about recognizing what uplifts and what drains and choosing accordingly. So what does that look like in action? Start with the first 10 minutes of your day. No phone, no screens, just stillness. Breathe in. Let your mind arrive before your body moves. Ask yourself one question: where do I want my energy to go today? Then act in alignment. If a message doesn't match your purpose, ignore it. If a person only brings noise, limit access. If a task depletes without return, restructure it or remove it. And if your mind wanders into worry, gently pull it back. Not with force, but with focus. You don't owe your response to everything that calls your name. You owe yourself peace. And peace is not passive. It's built through boundaries. Not walls to shut the world out, but gates to protect what matters. And what matters most is your clarity, your presence, your ability to act from calm, not from chaos. So tomorrow, when the world reaches for you too early, pause. Don't pick up your phone before you pick up your purpose. Don't let the day decide how you feel. Begin it by declaring, my energy is sacred. Not everything gets access. Then live like that's true. Because when you guard your energy, you amplify your impact. And that's how Stoics move. Not with noise, but with quiet strength. 7. I own my choices and their consequences. Every outcome in your life began as a decision. Every direction you're walking now was chosen. either actively or passively, by you. But most people don't live that way. They live in reaction, in blame, in delay. When life gets difficult, they search for someone else to carry the burden. A boss, a spouse, a childhood, a system. And while pain is real, the habit of blame is a trap. Because the moment you give away responsibility, you also give away power. You become a passenger in your own life. Stoicism draws a hard line here. It says no matter what happens to you, what you do next is yours. That's the battlefield. That's the difference between living as a victim of circumstances or as the architect of character. Epictetus didn't have comfort, he didn't have status, he didn't even have freedom, he was a slave. But what he did have was this, the power to choose his response. And from that one truth, his entire philosophy grew. You don't get to choose every event, but you do get to choose your stance, and your stance defines everything. Imagine a woman in her late 50s, frustrated by years of unmet goals. She says she wants change, better health, deeper relationships, a new purpose. But every morning, she starts the day replaying regrets. She tells herself stories like, "It's too late," or "People like me never catch up." So she does what's familiar, scrolls, complains, avoids, overcommits. She's choosing her patterns, and those patterns are choosing her future. But if she paused just once to say, "This is my choice and so is the next one," she'd awaken a different voice. One that doesn't beg for escape, but demands alignment. Your life is not the product of one massive decision. It's the compound interest of daily ownership. You don't fall off track because of one failure. You drift because of 1,000 small excuses. And each excuse whispers the same thing. It's not your fault. But the Stoic refuses that whisper. Not because they crave guilt, but because they crave power. Owning your choices is not self-punishment. It's self-liberation. It means the next choice can be cleaner, sharper, more aligned, because it's yours. People confuse blame with responsibility. They think owning their actions means hating themselves. It doesn't. It means being honest. And honesty is where freedom begins. Once you stop pointing fingers, you can start planting roots. You can say, "This is what I did, this is where I am, and this is how I move forward." That's a grown mindset. That's the kind of internal accountability that doesn't rely on fear or praise to keep going. It relies on integrity. Here's a practice. Tomorrow morning, when you reflect on yesterday, don't ask, "Why did they do that?" Ask, "What did I allow?" Don't ask, "Why do I feel stuck?" Ask, "What did I choose that brought me here?" Then follow it with, "What can I choose now that breaks the cycle?" That moment is powerful. That moment is yours. The Stoics didn't aim to live perfect lives. They aimed to live examined lives. They asked questions that cut through emotion, drama, and excuses. Not to feel superior, but to stay awake. Because sleepwalking through life is easy. Waking up to your choices is hard, but it's the only path to peace. So tomorrow, before the world tries to sway your mind, speak into your own clarity. Say it out loud. "No one else is responsible for the direction I walk." Then act from that place, not with shame, but with resolve. Because once you own your choices, you reclaim your identity. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is more stoic than that. 8. I begin again, freely and fully. Every morning is a silent invitation, a reset, a chance to rise not as who you were yesterday, but as who you decide to be today. But most people miss that. They wake up and carry yesterday's weight like it's required. Regrets, comparisons, old identities, emotional scars they've rehearsed so many times they forget they're optional. Instead of beginning again, they repeat. Not because they have to, but because they've forgotten they can choose differently. To begin again is not denial. It's courage. It's the act of reclaiming your direction while the world expects your repetition. It's not pretending the past didn't happen. It's refusing to let it dictate what happens next. The Stoics understood this long before therapy or self-help existed. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." He didn't say, "Fix your life first." He said, "Begin learning again and again." The idea is simple. Renewal is not rare. It's daily, but only if you claim it. Now, imagine a man in his 60s. He's been through bankruptcy, a divorce, and years of emotional numbness. He wakes up in a quiet apartment with no plans and too much memory. His instinct is to scroll through the past, mental images of what he lost, what he ruined, what he should have done. But today something interrupts the loop. He sits still. And for the first time in months, he says out loud, "I am not my past, I am my present power." That one shift doesn't change his history, but it changes his posture. He stands straighter, he drinks water with purpose, he makes a small plan for the day, and just like that, he begins again. Not perfectly, but freely. What keeps most people trapped is the belief that change must be dramatic. They must first erase their flaws, build a perfect plan, or wait for a sign from the universe. But the Stoic rejects delay. He doesn't wait for clean slates, he creates them. He knows that each sunrise is an invisible line drawn across time. You can step across it with awareness, or you can drag the past behind you until it buries you. To live stoically is to burn yesterday's script without fear of forgetting the story. It's to keep the wisdom and discard the weight. Regret serves no one when it becomes ritual. You are not built to rehearse your failures like a performance. You were built to extract the truth, then move forward with it. The Stoic mindset is rooted in motion. If you're breathing, you're still building. That's why beginning again isn't about changing everything. It's about changing direction, even by 1 degree. It's about waking up and saying, "Today I re-enter the world with choice." It could be as small as replacing 5 minutes of scrolling with 5 minutes of reflection. As minor as walking in silence instead of filling your ears with noise. As powerful as saying no to one thing that never served you. If you want to reclaim your power, reclaim your morning. Don't open your eyes to your past. Open them to your present. Don't let memory become your master. Let clarity become your command. And clarity is simple. You are not obligated to become a better version of who others expect. You are free to become a true version of who you already are. So tomorrow, before you move, before you scroll, before you speak, pause, breathe, and say, "I begin again, freely and fully." Let that phrase cut through shame. Let it override guilt. Let it anchor you in presence. Because no matter what yesterday looked like, today is still yours to build. And no one, not your past, not your mistakes, not even your old self, can stop you from beginning again if you truly decide to. Your mind is your first home, your quiet fortress, and your most valuable weapon. What you say to yourself each morning sets the tone for your discipline, your focus, your energy, and your ability to lead your life with intention rather than emotion. The 8 Stoic declarations you've heard are not just affirmations, they are habits of thought. And thoughts, when trained, reshape identity. Say them not as empty phrases, but as commands to your nervous system. Speak to them not for motivation, but for mastery. Each one is a seed. I am responsible for my inner world. Today is a gift, not a guarantee. My emotions serve me, they don't rule me. I choose alignment over approval. I act with discipline, not mood. I guard my energy, I own my choices, I begin again. These truths, when practiced daily, rewire your mind and rebuild your reality. This practice is not complicated, but it does require commitment. Just 5 minutes each morning can train your thoughts to work for you instead of against you. When you do that, emotional self-control becomes your default. Mental clarity becomes your compass. Inner peace becomes your power. So tomorrow morning, before the world speaks, speak to yourself. Reclaim your focus, realign your energy, reprogram your identity through quiet repetition, and then live like those words are true. Let this not just be something you heard, let it become something you do. And if this message helped bring you closer to that inner steadiness, I invite you to share your own morning mindset below. What thought will you start with tomorrow? Your story may be the very spark someone else needs to begin again. Stay grounded, stay intentional, speak wisely, and walk with power.